Welcome to the complete Windows command line course. The command prompt is one of the most powerful tools in the Windows operating system. Before the invention of the user interface, the command prompt used to be the only way to interact with a computer, and thus it can be used to do almost anything, from simple tasks such as moving, renaming, and deleting files, managing or troubleshooting your network. Welcome to the first section of the course. In this section, we are going to learn everything from the very basics of the command line to some slightly more advanced commands. Starting off, we are going to learn what commands are, how we can make them function in specific ways using parameters, and how to use the command line to complete basic tasks such as navigating the command line, manipulating files or folders, and more. So what is the command line? The command line, also called the command prompt or CMD, is a text-based user interface. That means that the only way to interact with it is to type commands. A command is a word that tells the command line to act in a specific way or complete a specific task. We will learn more about commands later on. The command line can be used to complete a myriad of tasks and functions. Some tools and commands within the command line are extremely useful and cannot be accessed otherwise, making the command line particularly useful for high-level coding and system administration. First lesson. The first thing we're going to learn is how to open the command line. Feel free to follow along. There are many ways to open the command line. The easiest is to type CMD in the search bar and select the first result. With the command line open, welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we're going to learn the very basics of the command line. We will start with an introduction to the command line. We will then learn how to use commands to view our files, how to use parameters to manage the output, and everything in between. Taking a look. Let's first take a look around the command line. The first two lines display basic information about our Windows version. Feel free to ignore these. In the next line, you will see the location at which the command prompt is located now, and it's called the current working directory. In your case, your Windows username will be displayed here. In my case, it's Julian. One of the many functions of the command line is that it can be used as a file manager, meaning that you can view, delete, rename, change file permissions, and more. For now, think of it as a less intuitive, harder to use file manager, but with a lot more options. So this would be the equivalent of navigating to that directory from the Windows File Manager. Viewing files. Let's suppose that we want to view every file and folder in our current location. To do that, we will use a command. Like we learned previously, a command is a word that tells the command prompt to act in a specific way or complete a specific task. In this case, we wanted to list every file or folder in our current directory. The command we are going to use is called dir. Dir stands for directory. Typing dir in the command line will list all the files and folders in our current directory, as well as some information about each of them. The first two lines you're going to see are dot and dot dot. The single dot represents the current directory, and the double dot the parent directory. So, in my case, the single dot displays information about the Julian folder, and the double dot about the users folder. In the next columns are the dates and times the files were created, and next to that, the word dir indicates that this is a folder or directory. The next column after that contains the names of every file and folder in this directory. Parameters. Well, that's all well and good, but if you want, for example, to sort the output of the dir command. To do that, we will need to learn parameters. Parameters, also known as options or arguments, are specific words, letters, or symbols that can be typed after any command to make it function in a specific way. Parameters are different from every command, and thus memorizing them all is impossible. Luckily, you don't have to memorize every parameter, because that's where the command help comes in. The command help displays every available parameter for a selected command. Typing help dir, for example, will display every available parameter option for the dir command. So if you ever forget the parameter you need, simply type help followed by the command you need help with to get a refresher. Let's press enter as instructed by the command line so that we can view the full list of parameters. As you can see here, there are quite a lot of parameters available for the dir command. Next to every parameter, the command line displays a brief explanation of what it does. For this lecture, let's say that I want to sort every file by its creation date. Going by the output of the help command, we need to use the /o parameter followed by d, so that they are sorted by their creation date. So our complete parameter will be /od. Now let's type our command with our parameter. Our files are now sorted so that the oldest appear first. Success! There are many combinations of commands and parameters, and you can use them to complete pretty much every task there is. Feel free to try a few more parameters on your own before moving on to the next part of the lecture. Summary. In conclusion, dir command displays every file and folder in our current directory. When looking at the output, remember, the single dot represents the current directory and the double dot the parent directory. Use parameters to make commands function in a specific way. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we are going to learn how to navigate the command line, how to create or delete folders from our current as well as different directories, and everything in between. Preparation. Before we begin learning how to navigate folders from the command line, we have to create a folder to navigate into. Simply right-click on your desktop and create a folder called Cats. Navigating directories. In the previous lecture, we learned how to view the files of our current directory using the dir command. Let's do that once again, by typing dir. But what if we want to view the files of another directory? That's where the command cd comes in. cd stands for change directory. Typing cd followed by the directory we want to navigate into will change the command prompt's location to that directory. Let's navigate to the desktop where we created our cats folder. Simply type cd desktop. Success! Our directory has been changed and we are now into the desktop folder. From here, we can view the files of this directory by typing the dir command we previously learned. And as you can see, the cats folder is there. We can change our location back to the parent directory by typing cd followed by 2 dots. Like we learned previously, the double dots represent the parent directory, so typing cd ... is the same as typing the full path of the parent directory, in this case c/users/julian. Now, let's say we want to navigate into the cats folder. To do that, we would have to navigate to the desktop folder using the cd command like we did previously, and then navigate to the cats folder using cd once again. However, we could navigate directly from our current directory to the cats folder with just one command. Let's simply type cd desktop / and cats. The / indicates to the command line that what follows is a directory. Upon running the command, you can see that we have successfully changed our directory without having to go through the desktop folder. Creating folders. Now that we know how to navigate the command line, we can learn how to create our first folder. The command we are going to use is mkdir, which stands for make directory. Typing mkdir in our command line, followed by the name we want our folder to have, will create a folder in our current directory. Let's create a folder called mycats, for example. Let's type dir to verify that our folder was created. Our folder is not here. What went wrong? Let's sort the list by the creation date by typing dir/od like we learned previously. As you can see, a folder was indeed created, however, not with the correct name. So, how did this happen? Let's first take a look at the command we typed. To quickly view your command history, simply hit the up arrow key in your keyboard a few times until the command we previously typed appears. It seems that the command prompt only used the first word of our folder's name and completely ignored the rest. Why did this happen? The command prompt needs to be able to differentiate between names and multiple parameters. When typing names or directory locations that have spaces within them, we need to use quotation marks, which tell the command line that the spaces separating the words do not constitute an additional parameter and are just the continuation of our folder's name. So the correct command would be mkdir mycats in quotes. Let's type dir once again to verify. And as you can see, a folder with the correct name has been created. Deleting folders. But what we can also see is the folder we accidentally created. To remove it, we will use the rmdir command, which stands for remove directory. Typing rmdir followed by the name of the folder we want to delete will delete it. Keep in mind that, as the name suggests, rmdir only deletes folders. Trying to delete a file using rmdir will constitute an error. rmdir without any parameters only removes folders that are empty. To delete a folder, along with the files or folders within it, you need to use the /s parameter. The command would look like this. After entering the command line will ask you if you are sure you want to delete this file. Simply press Y to confirm. Different directories. Typing mkdir directly followed by a name for a folder will create a folder in our current working directory, as we saw previously. But what if we want to create or delete a folder in a different directory from the one we are currently located without having to navigate there? You would have to enter the location of the target directory, followed by a backward slash and the name we want our folder to have, instead of typing the name of our folder directly, the same way we do when we are located in the directory we want to create it at. So, the command will look something like this. As you can see, we are once again using quotation marks because the location of our directory contains a space. You can replace mkdir with any command to complete any task from any directory. Summary. To conclude, use cd to navigate to directories, create or delete directories using mkdir or rmdir. Don't forget to use quotation marks in names or locations that contain spaces. To create or delete a file from a different directory, enter its full location instead of its name. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we are going to learn how to use the command line to move or copy files, how to rename and delete files and folders from our current as well as different directories, and everything in between. Preparation. To learn how to move files, we must first create a file that we will use to move around. In the next lecture, we are going to learn how to create files directly from the command line. But for now, let's simply right-click in our desktop, select New, and then New Text Document. Let's rename our new text document to cat, for example. Let's go back to the command line to create a folder in which we'll move our file into. First, navigate to the desktop using cd. And now, we are going to use the mkdir command we learned previously to create a folder. Typing dir, we can verify that our file and our directory have been created. Moving files. We can use the command line to organize our files with the move command. Move is used to transfer a file or folder from one location to another. You're going to type move followed by the location or name of the file we want to move, in this case cat, along with the location we want to move it into, in this case the cats folder. Let's verify that our file has been moved to the cats folder using the cd command. And let's type dir once again. As you can see, our file has been moved successfully. Moving backwards. To move a file back to its parent directory, we're going to use the move command along with the path of the parent directory, or, alternatively, we can use the double dot we learned in the first lecture. In the same way we use cd ... to navigate ourselves to the parent directory, typing move, the name of our file, followed by 2 dots, will move the file back to its parent directory. Let's navigate to the parent directory to verify that our file is there. Typing cd followed by double dots and using the dir command, we can verify that our file has indeed been moved to its parent directory. Copying files. An alternative to the move command is copy. The copy command is used the same way the move command is, however, it not only transfers files, but it keeps the original file in its place, essentially duplicating it. Let's try it. And as you can see, the original file is still there. However, upon navigating to the cats folder, we can see that an identical copy of our file is there as well. You can also use copy to duplicate a file without moving it to a new directory. Simply type copy, followed by the name of the file, as well as the name we want our duplicate to have. Let's check if our file has been duplicated. And indeed it has. Renaming files. To rename a file, we're going to use the ren command, followed by the name of the file or folder we want to rename, along with the name we want it to have. In this case, let's rename our cat.txt file into cat1.txt. Let's type dir to verify. And our file has been renamed successfully. Deleting files. To delete the files we just created, we are going to use the del command. Unlike rmdir, del can only delete files. Using del to delete a folder will constitute an error. To delete both our files at once, we could simply enter del followed by the names of our files. However, there is a better way. Wildcards. We can delete every file that begins with the word cat all at once by using a wildcard. Wildcards are special symbols that take the place of characters or words. The most commonly used wildcard is the asterisk. Typing del followed by a set of characters that is shared among the names of the files we want to delete and an asterisk will delete them. Typing dir, we can see that both our files have been deleted. Different directories. When you type the name of a file you want to rename, move, or otherwise, the command line will look for that file only in the current directory. In the previous lecture, we used mkdir to create a folder in a different directory by typing its full path instead of typing directly its name. In the same way, if you want to modify a file or folder from a different location, you will have to enter its full path instead of its name directly. Note that quotation marks are not required in this case because our location does not contain any spaces. As long as you type the full path of a file, you can modify it from any directory in your command line. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we are going to learn what redirectors are, how we can use them to create files from the command line, how to combine multiple commands, and everything in between. Redirectors. Usually, the only way to send input to the command line is with your keyboard. However, we can also send input or output using a redirector. A redirector is a special symbol that is used to, as the name suggests, redirect the input or output from one command to another. Let's take a look at a few ways we can use redirectors. Creating files. Our first example of how to use a redirector will be creating a text file. To create a file with a Windows command line, we're going to use the echo command along with the redirector. Echo is primarily used to print variables or strings to the command line, similar to print or console.writeLine in other languages. However, for now, we're going to redirect its output and use it to create a file. You can create multiple types of files using echo. However, for this example, we're going to create a text file because it's the easiest to grasp. To redirect echo's output into a file, like I mentioned previously, we need to use a redirector. There are multiple types of redirectors, but for this example, we're going to use the greater than symbol. It redirects the output of the echo command, in this case, into a text file. Let's type echo, followed by the text we want our file to have, along with the greater than symbol and the name we want our file to have, along with its extension. And our file has been created. But let's check if the contents of our file were created correctly as well. We could simply navigate to our directory from the Windows File Manager and open our file there. However, we can open our file directly from the command line simply by typing its name. The notepad will immediately launch and display the contents of our file. Alternatively, you can also view the contents of a file directly in the command line using the type command. Simply enter type followed by the name of the file we just created. The contents of our file are now shown in the command line. Using the greater than redirector, we'll only create a new file. To add text to an existing file, we need to type the greater than symbol twice. Once again, using the type command, we can see that our text was added successfully. In some instances, you might want to create an empty file. For that, we're going to use echo directly followed by a dot, the greater than symbol, and the name of our file. Let's use type to verify. And the file is indeed empty. Combining commands. In the Windows command line, you can enter multiple commands with one line of code. We used a redirector previously to redirect the output of the echo command into a file. This time, we're going to use a redirector to redirect from one command to another. Let's go through all the redirectors you can use to combine two commands. The most commonly used redirector is the double ampersand. It only runs the second command if the first runs successfully. Next up is the single ampersand. It runs the second command regardless if the first command returns an error or not. Then we have the double vertical bar, which only runs the second command if the first one fails. And finally, the single vertical bar, which redirects the output of the first command to the second command. You can also combine multiple redirectors. If the first command runs successfully, command 2 will be run. If not, command 3 will be run instead. You can use any of the above redirectors or a combination of them to complete any task you wish. For example, to create a file, move it to a new folder, and view its contents, you need to type the following. Try using a combination of commands on your own using the redirectors you just learned to make sure you understand them properly. Summary. Use echo along with a greater than redirector to create files. Type echo followed by a dot to create empty files. Use type to view the contents of a file directly from the command line. Make use of redirectors to run multiple commands in one line. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we're going to learn the 3 ways you can use the command line to launch applications, how to use environment variables to make the process easier, and everything in between. Starting applications. In many cases, you might want to start an application directly from the command line. There are 3 ways to do that: internal commands, direct invocation, the start command. Let's go over each one of them. Internal commands. Internal commands is what we have been using thus far. With internal commands, you can only launch applications that are built into the command line, such as echo or cd. Direct invocation. To start a program using direct invocation, the executable of your program needs to be located in the same directory as the command line. Let's try and launch an application using direct invocation. For example, let's try launching Chrome. We would first have to navigate to the location of our application's executable. To find the location of our Chrome executable, we would have to find its shortcut from the desktop, right-click it, select Properties, and find its location from the Start In field. Now that we have our executable location, let's navigate there to verify that our executable is there. And indeed it is. Now that we are in the folder in which the executable is located in, let's launch it by simply typing its name. The command line searched through all the files in our current directory, found the Chrome executable, and successfully launched it. You might be wondering why we didn't launch Chrome directly from its desktop shortcut. This is certainly possible. Let's navigate to our desktop and find our Chrome shortcut. Some people, however, myself included, may find that some shortcuts are missing from a desktop folder. That's because Windows sometimes stores shortcuts in different folders. If your shortcut is not located in your desktop folder, simply navigate to the following location and find your shortcut there. Note that shortcuts use the LNK extension as opposed to the usual exe. This is of no concern to us, since in this case their usage is exactly the same. Once you find your shortcut's name, simply type it into the command line along with its extension, in quotation marks, because the name of the shortcut contains a space. And as you can see, Chrome successfully launches. Start command. The third way we can launch applications in the command line is with the use of the start command. Unlike direct invocation, you do not have to be in the same directory the executable is located in. With start, we can also launch applications that are listed in the path environment variable. We are going to learn more about environment variables later on. Let's try launching an application with the start command. Type start followed by an empty set of quotation marks, the location of the Chrome executable, as well as a backward slash and the executable's name in quotation marks. And launch it. The command start requires an empty set of quotation marks as the first parameter for locations with spaces. This happens because start can be used to open console applications as well. and if the first argument is quoted, it assumes that it's the name for the new console window. If your executable's location does not contain any spaces, simply type start followed by the location. Environment variables. Having to find the location of the executable every time you want to open it can get tedious. That's where environment variables come in. Environment variables are, as the name suggests, a set of variables whose value is set through the operating system. When we launch applications using the start command, the command line looks up the name of our application in our path environment variable, among other locations. The path environment variable contains a list of applications and executable locations. Let's list our Chrome's executable location in the path environment variable. We're going to use the set command. Type set followed by the name of our program and then its executable's location. Let's now use the start command to start Chrome. Type start followed by the name of the program, in this case Chrome. And as you can see, Chrome successfully launches. Summary. To launch a program when you are located in the same location as its executable, use direct invocation. Use the start command to start a program from any directory by typing its full path. Use set to start programs without having to type their full path. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we are going to learn a few essential commands you can use to complete a variety of tasks. We are going to learn how to view system information, how to structure, compare and secure your files, how we can manage tasks, and much more. System information. Let's start with system info. System info will tell you plenty of information about your system. Upon typing system info in your command line, you will see a detailed list of your computer's information and hardware properties. Using a redirector, you can create a text file with this information, like we learned previously. Let's use the dir and type command to verify that our file information is there. And indeed it is. Alternatively, you can copy the output into your clipboard using the single vertical line redirector and the clip command. As we learned previously, the single vertical line redirects the output of the first command into input for the second command. The command clip copies the input into the clipboard. Let's create a new text file to view the contents of our clipboard. Let's create a new text file to paste the information of our clipboard. And as you can see, our information has been copied. Driver information. Similar to system info is driver query. Driver query gathers information about every driver in your system and is especially useful when troubleshooting a device. Drivers are software that are essential for the communication between your hardware and your software, and are often the root cause for a misbehaving or non-functional device. If you want even more information about each driver, you can use the /v parameter. Manage tasks. You can manage running tasks directly from the command line with task list and task kill. Upon typing task list, a list of every running process is displayed along with its ID. Although it is redundant with the task manager, task list can often show tasks that are hidden otherwise, as well as display more information about each of them. There are several useful parameters such as task list /v, which displays more information about every task, or task list /svc, which shows related services. You can also use task kill to kill a running process. Type task kill /im followed by an executable name, or task kill /pid and the ID of the process. Directory structure. The tree command can make it very easy for you to locate files using the command line. You can view how your directory is structured and where every file is located with the tree command. Upon typing tree in your command prompt, you can see a list of every file in your corner directory as well as every subdirectory. You can also type tree followed by the name of your drive to view your entire computer's file structure. It might take a while for this to complete, depending on the size of your drive. Compare files. If you are a programmer or a writer, it is very useful to know if there are any differences between two files. You can use the command line to display any differences using the fc command. Let's first create two files using the echo command. Type fc followed by the locations or names of the text files you want to compare, and you will immediately see the differences in the command line. Shutdown system. You can use the shutdown command to schedule a shutdown or a restart for your computer. For example, typing shutdown/s/t 7200 will shut down your computer in 2 hours. Change the /t parameter to adjust the time in seconds. To abort the scheduled shutdown, type shutdown/a. You can also type shutdown/r/o to restart your computer and enlarge the Advanced Start Options menu, which is very useful for troubleshooting Windows problems. Secure files. You can use Cipher to securely encrypt or decrypt any files or folders. Type cipher/e followed by the name or location of the folder you want to encrypt. Replace the /e parameter with /d to decrypt a folder or file. Cipher is a security tool and can do a lot more than just encryption and decryption. For example, you can use Cipher with a /w parameter along with the name of your drive to override all your empty space, making deleted data unrecoverable. Keep in mind that this operation will take quite a long time to complete. Summary. To view various information about your system, use System Info or Driver Query. Use Task List and Task Kill to manage your tasks. To organize, compare, and secure your files, use tree, fc, and cipher. Schedule shutdowns or restarts with the shutdown command. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we're going to learn a few more essential commands. This time, however, we're going to focus on commands and tools that are specific to network management or troubleshooting. If you're not familiar with networks, or if you do not intend to use the command line in a networking capacity, feel free to skip this lecture. Otherwise, let's get started. We're going to learn how to manage your network, how to troubleshoot network issues, and how to view information about a network or a server. Troubleshooting networks. Ping. Ping can help you resolve network or Ethernet connectivity issues by sending packets to your destination and awaiting a response. Type ping followed by a URL or an IP address. You will see the reply from the server, letting you know that it's there, as well as the amount of time the interaction took. Tracert. Tracert can be used to visually identify exactly where a problem occurs when a packet gets sent and receives from its destination. Tracert, as the name implies, traces each hoop on the route the packet takes to your destination and tells you information about each of them. To use it, type tracert followed by your destination URL or IP. Path ping. Path ping is a more advanced version of ping, as well as a combination of ping and tracert. Path ping sends ping commands to every hoop a packet takes to reach your destination over a period of time, resulting in a very detailed report. Its usage is similar to both ping and tracert. Simply type path ping followed by your destination URL or IP. The operation can take quite a long time to complete, and thus tracert is usually preferred. However, the extra information it provides can be very useful at times. Managing networks. ipconfig. Type ipconfig in your command line to get all sorts of information about your IP configuration and all the IP addresses your PC is currently using. A particularly useful parameter is /flushdns, which will completely delete your DNS cache. You can also use ipconfig/release followed by ipconfig/renew to assign a new IP address to your computer. NSLookup. Use NSLookup to find the IP of a server from a domain name. Simply type NSLookup followed by the domain you want to resolve. Alternatively, you can perform a reverse lookup by entering an IP address and finding out the associated domain name. Route. You can use the route command to display or modify your computer's routing table. To display your routing table, simply type route followed by the parameter print. To modify your routing table, use the following syntax. The p parameter makes your entry persistent. Without this parameter, your entry will be deleted in the next boot. Next, type the action you want to take with this entry and the IP of the destination subnet. Optionally, you can enter the subnet mask. If you don't, the default will be used, followed by the gateway IP. And finally, with the /if parameter, you can specify the interface from which the packets will be sent. Make sure you know what you're doing before changing routing tables. The wrong command can potentially break your computer's connectivity. Summary. Use ping, tracert, and path ping to troubleshoot network problems. Use NSLookup and ipconfig to view information about your network or a server. Use route to manage your computer's routing table. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we're going to learn how to create and run your first script, how to implement variables, as well as some logic into our script. Although this course is more about the command line itself, this wouldn't be a complete course without at least a brief introduction to the basics of scripting. Batch scripts. You can automate many tasks and make your computer life easier by using scripts. A batch script is a file containing multiple lines with commands that are executed one after the other by the command prompt. With scripts, you can automate repetitive tasks, such as the deployment of applications to many computers at once, or various housekeeping activities, such as deleting unwanted log files or organizing your files. Creating a script. Like I mentioned previously, batch scripts are text files containing lines of code. So let's create a text file and add some code. Let's simply type echo hello and beneath that type pause. Without the command pause, the command line will automatically close because there are no more commands to be run. Batch scripts use the .bat extension, so to make our file executable, we need to change its extension to .bat. Click File, Save As, and type .bat after the name of our file. Let's now execute our file simply by double-clicking it. As you can see, the command line immediately launches and executes our command. Press any key to close the command line. The command line shows the current directory and the command that is being executed before showing its output, the same way it does when we type commands directly into the command line. When running scripts, however, we might want to view just the output. To do so, simply add @echo off as the first line of our script. Upon running the script, once again you can see that only our output is shown this time. Variables. Just like with any programming language, you can assign and read variables. To set a variable, use the set command followed by the name of the variable, the equal sign and its value, without any spaces. Let's print the value of our variable by using echo. Type echo followed by the %sign, the name of our variable and the %sign once again. We are using %signs because echo needs to be able to differentiate between words and variables. Without the %signs, the command line will only show the name of our variable and not its value. Let's try launching our script. Success! To change the value of a variable, you can simply type set once again with the desired value. We can also prompt the user to set the value of a variable using the /p parameter. Type set/p followed by the name of the variable and make it equal to what you would like displayed to your user. If statements. Let's implement some logic into our script. We can use if statements to condition the output of our script. One of the most common uses of if statements is checking variables. To create an if statement, simply type if followed by our variable, two equality signs, a value, and the command we want to run if the statement is true. And let's run our script. We can also add else and else if statements simply by adding them after our if statement. This time, however, we need to enter our commands in parentheses. Functions and goto. A function is a group of commands that together perform a task. With functions, we can organize our code and make it easier to understand. To add a function to our script, simply enter a colon punctuation mark and the name of our function. To call your function, type goto followed by the name of your function. Let's try running our script. Success! Loops. One of the most basic, but simultaneously powerful programming concepts are loops. We can use loops to repeat an instruction until a specified condition is met. For example, let's say that we want to print every number until 100 into our command line. Let's type for followed by /l, two %signs, a character as a name for a variable, the word in, and within parentheses enter the starting number, the increment, and the final number along with the word do, and in parentheses enter the command you want to run. The /l parameter tells the for command to loop through a set of numbers, rather than operating on a set of files or folders. Our a variable specifies a single letter replaceable parameter. You may have noticed that the syntax of variables when they are used in the for command is slightly different. They require two percentage signs before the name of the variable as opposed to one at the beginning and one at the end. That is because the for loop requires a percent sign followed by a placeholder variable. However, a single percent sign would not be interpreted correctly by the command line because it has a special meaning. Thus, we need to use one more percent sign so that the command line knows that what follows is a literal percentage sign. The command for will assign a new value to our parameter for every number from 1 until 100, increment it by 1, and finally print it. Upon running our script, you can see that all the numbers appear on the command line successfully. Loops can get quite complicated, and since this lecture is only about the basics of scripting, we will not be covering them further. Summary. Make sure you change your script's extension to .bat for it to be executable. Use variables and if statements to handle input. Use functions to organize your code and make it easier to read. Loops are very powerful and you can use them to complete repetitive tasks in an instant. Welcome to another lecture of the course. In this lecture, we're going to learn a number of tips and tricks you can use on the command line to improve your efficiency and productivity. We will learn how to view your command history, how to automatically complete commands, how to abort a running command, and a number of other tips and tricks. Command history. Let's start by learning how to view your command history. Apart from using the arrow keys, which only display your previous commands, one by one, you can simply type /history to view your entire command history. If having to type a command sounds like a chore to you, you can simply press F7 in your keyboard and a window with your previous commands will show up. Use the arrow keys in your keyboard to navigate through all the commands and press Enter to retype the selected command. Abort a command. Commands like cipher or tree can take quite a long time to complete. You occasionally might want to cancel the operation. To do that, simply press Ctrl and C. A stubborn command might refuse to close with Ctrl C, in which case press Ctrl Z, which will force the command to stop. One page at a time. Using a command like tree can yield a huge amount of information displayed on your screen, and would require quite a lot of scrolling to find exactly what you want. Thankfully, we can use the more command to view the result of a command one page or even one line at a time. Simply type your command and redirect its output to the more command. Press Enter to view one line at a time or space to view one page at a time. Press Ctrl C to cancel. Autocomplete. Typing lengthy commands can get quickly tiresome. Luckily, the command line can automatically complete commands for you. For example, let's say that we want to navigate to a folder that's located in our current directory. Let's first type cd and then press tab. We can keep pressing tab to cycle through all the folders in the current directory. Autocompletion works on all sorts of commands and is a huge time saver. Drag and drop path names. When using the command line, you are often required to enter long paths to files or folders. And while autocompletion makes it a lot easier, there is a much better solution. Simply open the folder in a Windows Explorer and drag and drop it into the command line. Its full path will immediately be shown. Watch Star Wars. One of the coolest things you can do in the Windows command line is that you can watch Star Wars Episode 4 directly from the command line. Yes, your hearing is not deceiving you. This might not be particularly useful, however, it is very cool. To watch the movie, first you have to enable Telnet services. Simply search for Turn Windows Features on or off and check the checkbox next to Telnet. After Telnet is configured, go back to your command line and type the following. The movie will start immediately. Summary. Use your command history, auto-completion, and drag and drop paths to improve your productivity in the command line. Cancel a command with Ctrl-C. Use the More command to view the output of a command one page or even one line at a time. Conclusion. This brings us to the end of this course. You now hopefully have the knowledge to complete a variety of tasks with the command line in an efficient and effective manner. I really hope you have enjoyed this course. I have certainly enjoyed teaching you.